for Saturday, July 11th, 2020. This is the Pro and Con Show, and I am your host, Michael James Ott. Welcome to the show. Today's show, I just want to talk about. So I've been talking about some of the stories. So yesterday, I pulled a story, and just to show you what you might be missing if you're only looking at one of these information streams, like if you only read Breitbart or you only read Huffington Post or whatever, you miss out on other information that is helpful to kind of see the whole picture. Okay. And so yesterday's story came out of NPR, and today's story is, and today's show is called Vandals. And the story is from Fox News, and this is the headline. Okay. Pelosi on Christopher Columbus statue destruction, people will do what they do. So what happened is there was a demonstration, and there was a statue in Baltimore, Maryland, of Christopher Columbus that had been commissioned and had been there for 35 or 40 years or whatever. And the crowd eventually angrily organized and tore down the statue and threw it into the harbor. And then they were asking at a press conference, they asked Nancy Pelosi about it. And her response was, if the people don't want it, it shouldn't be there. So, and then, Fox News, of course, being mostly biased toward supporting Mr. Trump and mostly biased away from supporting, so-called liberal agenda and Nancy Pelosi in particular, that wrote this fairly scorching article about, well, she doesn't care about law and order and so on. And they quote the Baltimore mayor, Bernard Young, said, protesters who destroyed the statue near Little Italy over the 4th of July, that this kind of destruction of property wouldn't be tolerated, and he would, if he ever finds out who did it, he will prosecute him to the full extent of the law. And so, again, this is another place where the complexity of this thing, it's not black and white, it's not cut and dry. So we're in the middle of, I would call it, and I hope that it is, a true awakening around the fact that systemic racism continues in our country, and step by step we need to address it. And there are crowds in the streets fomenting this frustration into, various demonstrations, and then, yes, unfortunately, sometimes violence, sometimes looting, and so on. Sometimes tearing down a statue. Now, it's clear, people kind of get, I think, many Americans get the idea, well, these Confederate statues that we've had, sitting around, especially when they're sitting there, it's one thing to have history and then, have like a historical marker that talks about why this person, the statue is there, and why, that the whole Civil War was fought, and ultimately why this is a reminder of sometimes our very negative history. And that's where this complication comes in. And I started looking into it because I suspected, you see, back, whatever it was, 5-6 centuries ago, the Europeans, and again, not all Europeans, but it was pretty common. They were exploring the world or whatever. And generally, they took on this premise that they were superior to other beings that they encountered. And so it led to the holy wars and stuff like that in the Middle East, and it led, like Christopher Columbus, before he came to America, he actually captained ships and got, if not captained, then served on ships that were participating in a slave trade back before slaves were ever brought to America, obviously. And in fact, when he arrived here in the Americas, it's a historical fact that there was a significant amount of enslavement, pillaging, plundering, torture, because basically the Europeans, when they arrived, they had the upper hand in that they had superior weapons. And so they leveraged that upper hand to try to make the people that were living here in the Americas already, the Native Americans, subservient to them. And so the analogy would be today that there's peaceful people sitting in a city park somewhere, and 100, and maybe there's even a couple thousand peaceful people sitting in a city park somewhere, and some dozens of people approach them with military weapons, and then start abusing them and torturing them and enslaving them, forcing them to do things against their will. If that were to occur today, there would be incredible outrage. 500, 600 years ago, that happened. Dozens, if not hundreds of times around the world. And we have to own it. We have to understand that that was wrong. We shouldn't have done it. Just like it would be wrong if we did it today. And then we have to understand that people who, through the course of history, have a background where they understand that abuse and that terror and that enslavement and all those horrific things, and it's a part of them because of how they've been treated, how their past generations, their parents and grandparents and siblings and all that have been treated. Yeah, Christopher Columbus is going to be somebody that isn't going to get a lot of love and affection. So it's only, and so, I mean, what's the right answer? Well, the right answer for sure is to talk to people and make it absolutely clear that we're working hard to work on this, to tell people, please try to have some patience. And that's very difficult because of decades. This centuries. This stuff has been going on. So I view it. It's a great thing in the sense of not necessarily that the Columbus statue got torn down, but it's a great thing that there's a persistence, a tenacity around expressing the frustration and the anger, and it's rightly so. And but then step by step, now, okay, let's work on this. to get that frustration gone forever. Now, Fox News basically is just pandering to the people that would look at this and say, well, Columbus was a hero. He discovered America. Well, more to it. More to it than that. Columbus has a soiled history, I guess is a way to say it, and a lot of things that no one should be proud of. And frankly, we all have some things that we should not be proud of, right? All right. So again, please, the ask is step back, consider the history and what it's meant to people, and consider the reality that these things are not, there's a lot of gray in this, and we need to appreciate, deeply appreciate what has happened to people in their past and in the present, and understand how they could easily react and do something to a statue of Columbus because of Columbus's record in the history books. For the Pro and Con Show, I am Michael James Ott, and until the next show, bye for now.